I went back and forth with several picks. It's hard. It's really hard to do a mock draft because of the fact that you have your own opinion on it. Let's say if you were the general manager of this team, who would you draft? So you have that, and also debating the fact that, well, what's realistic and what they're actually going to do. Because I have my own opinion on if I was a general manager and for these specific teams, who I would pick. But we're going to keep it on who I think the Browns and the 49ers and the Bears and all these other teams, who they will pick, not who I want them to get. So for YouTube, if you're watching this, this will be 1 through 10. If you want to see 11 through 32, go over to Spreaker, listen to the full show on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio. I have the full show as well here on YouTube, and you can listen to it then, and you can listen through picks 11 through 32. But for this, it's only going to be top 10. Woo! You guys ready? Here we go. First on the clock is the Cleveland Browns, and the first two picks for the first two teams on the NFL draft need so much help. There's help. They need help at every single position. So it becomes pretty tough on who they're going to pick. But the Cleveland Browns, I think this is basically locked up. And it's going to be Myles Garrett, Texas A&M defensive end. He's really the clear-cut top player in this draft class. And even though Garrett struggled, and a lot of people would say, well, what about Jonathan Allen? He was another dominant defensive lineman. But Garrett, he played through an ankle injury this season. Also had double teams. And it sounds somewhat familiar to another top defensive end that we had in recent years, and that was Jadeveon Clowney in his last year at South Carolina. Constantly double teamed. Everybody knew about him, and he was hurt. Now, there was a question on Jadeveon Clowney's motor, but I don't think we have that with Myles Garrett. Now, there is an interesting note to follow. Until draft day, that is, the Cleveland Browns are entertaining the possible fact that they could go and get Jimmy Garoppolo through a trade. That would mean, at the very least, giving up your 2 first-round draft picks. And imagine that. If I'm Tom Brady, Robert Kraft already came out and said he believes Tom Brady will play another 3 to 5 years. If you believe that truly in your heart, that Tom Brady can play another 3 to 5 years, which I think minimum 3 years, that Tom Brady can still go, he's not getting touched. I would look at this and say, if I could get the number 1 pick in the draft and the number 12, and you know that the Patriots are going to get some extra picks as well in future year drafts, and maybe even, like a 6th or something, or a 7th, along with this draft. Imagine that. You end up having your best year ever. What looks so dark and cloudy with the Tom Brady Deflategate suspension, you go all the way, you win the Super Bowl, and you have 2 top picks in the NFL draft, including the number 1 overall, where you get a Myles Garrett. That would be interesting. And I think if that trade happens and the Patriots do get the number 1 overall pick, I think they go Myles Garrett as well. I think they go Myles Garrett, number 1, and that would be something. The Patriots having the number 1 overall pick and get Myles Garrett. But if that doesn't happen, or another team does it, first overall pick is going to be Myles Garrett. Second, we have the San Francisco 49ers. And 49ers fans, I'm not throwing shade at you. I'm not throwing any hate. But honestly, I think the 49ers have the worst roster in the NFL. There's help literally at every single position. There's no one safe on that team. Maybe Carlos Hyde is your safest player. And that's it. And everyone is going quarterback here, Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Kaiser for the 49ers. I think it's too much of a reach. And with new head coach Mike Shanahan coming in, there's been talk that he said he's ready to bring in Matt Schaub, who was the backup quarterback in Atlanta, not only to bring him in as a veteran guy, as a potential backup, but he's not afraid to start him in 2017. So if that's true, and he already knows that offense through and through, and he can lead this team, and he can lead it better than any other free agent quarterback you can get, because you're not getting Cousins. I think Washington's locking him up. I don't think you have enough pieces to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, so there's no one really else out there, go with Matt Schaub. Go with Matt Schaub and draft another quarterback later. You could get Mahomes in the second round if you're desperate. And if Kaiser even drops down to the second round, you could get him. I don't know. I just think, and if anything, you could trade back into the late in the first round, which I wouldn't be surprised at all, because you'll see a lot of teams from 25 to 32 that might say, you know what, let's just trade out. We can get an extra piece in this draft. Plus, we'll get the second overall pick in the second round. It's a win-win. So I wouldn't be surprised San Francisco could trade back in and get another quarterback, maybe even Deshaun Watson, maybe Deshaun Kaiser, late in the first round. So why not, if you already got the second overall piece, get a member that can contribute immediately and be a star player. And that's why I'm going Jonathan Allen of Alabama. You bring him in there for this rebuilding team. You put him at that defensive tackle position, that 3 technique, along with Buckner, and along with a few other pieces. Defensive line becomes an immediate strength. And when you have a strong defensive line, you can usually put some okay-ish corners and some secondary out there, some above average secondary players, and you can find that they can each get 3 to 4 interceptions apiece throughout the year because you have a strong enough pass rush and a run stuffing interior line. Jonathan Allen can help do that, help solve a few pieces, and I think the 49ers, that's their best decision rather than risking on some quarterback that might not work out, and then you're really screwed up. Third overall pick, we have the Chicago Bears. Now I'm not doing this for every team, but if I was, this is the most passionate I feel, and I'm not a Bears fan. But if I was the Bears GM, I'd rock it out one more year with Jay Cutler. I rock it out for the same reason for the 49ers when there's no other quarterback out there that can help lead this team and not in this draft. So why not keep Cutler one more year? Hopefully work with a contract. I doubt he will, but keep him one more year. Draft another position, likely, possibly Mike Williams. You get Alshon on one side, you got Mike Williams on the other. You got Jonathan, is it Jonathan Howard? I feel like I feel like I said his first name wrong. Howard at running back. You then have a pretty solid offense that could get going. But I don't believe the Bears are going to do that. And that's why they end up getting Mitch Trubisky, quarterback out of North Carolina. He's a fine quarterback. He's got a strong arm. He's a really good athlete. I'm just not a huge fan of him. He only started 1 year, and really no game truly or throw blew me away and said, hey, I want this guy as a top 5 pick. And especially for a 1-year starter, you've got to show me something that you've got over all the other quarterbacks. Something like what Cam Newton showed. 1-year starter, and he showed he was the best quarterback. Mitch Trubisky did not win like crazy. He didn't just win the big games, and he didn't show me anything that shows he's an elite quarterback or a quarterback worthy of stepping into a franchise and becoming the day 1 starter. Because if you're Chicago Bears, are you really drafting Trubisky to be your backup with the 3rd overall pick, sit behind Jay Cutler? Because Jay Cutler isn't going to teach him anything. Cutler is probably selfish and not going to care, just worried about getting his money and playing for another free agent contract next season, if he's there with the team. And if he's not Trubisky, you lead him as your starter, you really feel that confident that he's that much better than Jay Cutler. And I'm not saying Jay Cutler's great. I think they should go in a different direction, and they can do the same thing that we just talked about with the 49ers. You can trade back in that late first rounder and get another quarterback. And just get Mike Williams, a solid piece to get your offense going. Or an offensive lineman, which it's a weak offensive line class, so I'd wait on that. But there are different pieces they could go and get that would really contribute to the team immediately and help this team change their season around if they did that. But I don't see it. Number 4, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And unlike the Raiders, they both had hype, but Jacksonville failed to reach any potential. Offensively, you've got the best young wide receiving core in the league. Now, it's time to put something in front. Offensive line needs some definite help. Bortles, I'm still a fan of him. And I think with Tom Coughlin coming in, even as a GM, I think he's going to help Bortles out a lot. He's going to help him develop. So, with that, TJ Yeldon, he got hurt. I'm a fan of him. I just don't think he can be your every down back. And I think you know where I'm going with this pick. Leonard Fournette, LSU, steps in, 6'1", 235. He has top-tier speed to pull away from defenders, and you know he's strong enough to knock down the first defender that comes at him and is great between the tackles. Jaguars need a bigger running back, and Leonard Fournette can be that guy. He can be the guy that you can go with every down. Maybe not third down, and that's when you could throw in Yeldon. But Leonard Fournette is that guy you can believe in and hand the ball off and keep this offense going. But with this pick, the Jags will have to go all O-line. They got to get some definite interior offensive line help as well as the outside. But I like this pick. And I think it's one of the safer picks for the Jacksonville Jaguars to throw in and get Leonard Fournette. At number 5, we got the Tennessee Titans. And I see them, they can easily go Mike Williams here. But I think they're going to go DB first. There's not cornerback-wise in this draft, you've got about less than a handful of top cornerbacks that you can go and get that are elite, that you feel confident with. Marshawn Lattimore is probably the best one. Wide receivers-wise, you could go and get some other good wide receivers later in this draft. That's why Titans go and get Marshawn Lattimore from Ohio State. You got a young offensive line in place, up-and-coming star QB, a stable of running backs. Titans, they can get that offense going. And I feel comfortable with them getting a third, fourth round wide receiver than them getting a third, fourth round corner. Go and get Lattimore, helps this team in the backfield. Number 6, you have the New York Jets. And they can go a lot of places here. But I'm taking Malik Hooker of Ohio State. Now, and I know we just got through talking about Trubisky being a one-year starter, but Malik Hooker, he showed up. In that one season, 7 interceptions. He dominated big teams like Michigan and Clemson. And he played with a torn labrum in his hip and had a hernia injury. He's going to have those surgeries to fix those, so he won't run during the combine. But I don't think his draft stock's going to drop too much. And Malik Hooker is an elite safety here, and that's why I think the Jets will go with him. And that's also, I'm being a little biased because I hope they go with him. Because with the 7th overall pick, the Los Angeles Chargers, my team, go and get Jamal Adams, strong safety from LSU. And boy, woo, when I tell you he is a treat to watch, this guy is a dominant force. His size, his physical style is something the Chargers haven't had since Rodney Harrison. And no, I'm not comparing him to Rodney Harrison. I'm just saying the Chargers never had a safety as dominant since Rodney Harrison. Eric Weddle, he can't lay the boom. But he was good. He was keeping everything in front at all times. And the Chargers, they easily saw what happens when you let go of an all-pro, of Eric Weddle. He was gone. You have new defense coordinator Gus Bradley coming in. He's switching things up on the defensive scheme-wise. He needs someone he can trust over the top, and that's Jamal Adams. Adams offers, he's got the coverage skills that you could believe in. He could be in the box and stop the run immediately. He can match up with tight ends, spy quarterbacks. He literally can do it all, and he's my favorite safety in this draft over Hooker. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Hooker fits the scheme more, he can free roam. And that's fine, and I'd be okay with Malik Hooker. But I want Jamal Adams more. I want that thumper. The Chargers do not have anybody behind those corners. And with Jason Verrett coming back, he should still be an all-pro type corner. You had Casey Hayward, who did a incredible job to come in and snag 7 interceptions to tie the lead league. You get him and you get Adams over the top. Secondary set. The secondary is set. And I know Phillip Rivers, they need help offensively. He was throwing at nothing but grocery baggers off with those receivers. They're terrible. Keenan Allen, he can't stay healthy for a season. You can't tell me that Inman and I can't even think of another wide receiver, and I watched the whole season. I know Mike Williams becomes a very favorable pick, and I would be okay with that too. But like I said, I feel comfortable getting maybe Isaiah Jones in the second round if he's there. Or D.D. Westbrook. Someone else later in the draft, because there's not another Jamal Adams in this draft. So go and secure that defense to dominate some of the weaker offenses in the AFC West, excluding Oakland's. But now you can match up. So now with 8th overall pick, Mike Williams wasn't going to fall too much more. He goes to Carolina. Of course, if Leonard Fournette somehow is there at number 8, that's going to be the best pick for the Carolina Panthers. But Mike Williams, he won't wow you with some speed. He's not the fastest receiver out there. But at 6'3", 225, you throw him out there with Devin Funchess and and Kelvin Benjamin out there, woo, you can just toss that ball up and no DB is going to be able to get it like these three guys. You instantly become one of the most fun offenses out there. And Cam, he struggled. He didn't. Funchess was inconsistent. Benjamin, he was still good. He was still pretty solid. But Williams, he went off against Alabama in the national title game. He showed what he could do against NFL coverage schemes and future pro talent. And that's why I feel comfortable with throwing him out there. He's more polished in this draft, and a bigger receiver for Cam Newton could be a major upgrade for this offense that struggled so much this year. And I know offensive line is another need. Potentially a linebacker could go here, or a defensive lineman like Solomon Thomas. But I'm gonna take Williams. At number 9, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Reuben Foster of Alabama, going with him. Same thing with the Bengals. They just need help in that defense. They need to go younger, faster, smarter guys. Reuben Foster can be that guy. His instincts are probably the best at the linebacker position in this class. Just the smartest linebacker in here. He knows where to go. He knows where the ball is at all times. Adding someone who can help this defense for the Bengals is a big key. So I'm going with Foster here. And at number 10, the Buffalo Bills go with defensive end Solomon Thomas from Stanford. He can also line up as a defensive tackle, so be interesting where they put him. But, there's a lot of talk whether or not Tyrod Taylor is going to be the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in 2017. I believe he will be. I believe they will find a way to get that contract settled and have Tyrod Taylor as a starter. So you look at the next need for this team, that's a pass rusher for the Bills. His athleticism at 6'3", 275. He's powerful. He's a guy that could fit their scheme. And that's why you throw him out there and you got the Buffalo's defense back going when they were getting 40-plus sacks a season. So for my YouTube viewers, if you want to know 11 through 32 picks, then head over to Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio to listen to the full show, including picks 11 through 32. Trust me, you are not going to believe who the New Orleans Saints pick at number 11. And here's a hint. It's going to help Drew Brees play another 5 years.